minute to like work out what I'm doing. Also, I can't see the chat anymore. Hang on. Just give me a second. Might just have to pull it up on my phone because I have no idea what I'm doing. All right, I got the chat here. That's good enough. Okay, so welcome to the Uniform Signage System seminar. Today we will be talking about as much as I can about the signage system. We're going to be looking at a few things. First of all, what goes on signs? This is the basics of the system. We're going to talk a little bit about route numbers and how the highway names are signposted, destinations. We're going to go through the standard destination map. We'll talk about what that is. Basically, we've got a few things to cover. I'll try and go through them as quick as possible, but yeah. If you have any questions, please feel free to write them in the chat, but I'll answer them all at the end because I don't want to break the flow. We're also going to look at some examples of signage placement, so I'll get in game, and if you want to follow me around to look at them, you can, or you can just watch through the stream. So we've got a few examples to look at. Then we're going to break for lunch. I'm kidding, of course, because it's 8 a.m. where I am, and probably, I don't know what time it is anywhere else. Then finally, we'll just have a quick look at the future of the signage system, sort of the future of maps and how we're going to move forward, because there's a lot to do, and I want to make sure that we're all on the same page, and that I'm not the only one doing it, because it's been a lot of work. So, but we'll get to that. So first of all, the basics of the signage system. This is a lot of text, but I'll run through it pretty, hopefully pretty concisely. So there are four main pieces of text that go on our signs. We've got route numbers, highway names, destinations, and instructions. So the route numbers, which I will talk more about in a minute, those are the most important piece of information to go on the signs from a highway perspective. So every road will be assigned a route number. Most already have been, and there are a couple of different types of route numbers, but we'll talk about those in a minute. So that's the first line. The very first line of almost every single sign is the route number and a cardinal direction. So routes will be assigned as going either east-west or north-south, and those directions are also shown on that line. So route numbers are very important, and it's important that you get it right, and we'll talk about those in a minute. We've also got highway names. Now, highway names are less important, and we only really show them when we've got space. So because it takes up a whole line and it doesn't really add any information that I guess that the route number wouldn't otherwise show, it's considered less important. But we do include them if we have the space, and it's always nice to add a more personal touch, because different roads were built by different people, and a route number might cover multiple highways. And again, we'll see how that all works in a minute. Finally, we've got destinations. Now, they are also very important. Those are the whole point of the system. We're all trying to work out where we're going, and so those destinations are derived from a number of different sources. So first of all, we've got the wiki and the map. They're linked, like the live map. That's where people put their settlements and towns and builds and all of that in. So we really use that as our first and most important source for data. And then if you're traveling around, you've also got, might see towns that aren't on the wiki or on the map. We try to include those where we can, but they're less easy to find. And finally, we've also got the regions. Now, this is a fairly new thing. As some people who are watching this may know, there's also been a community effort to map, or to split up Fredonia into different regions. That is a fairly new thing, so it's not something that we see on signs a lot, but regions can be used as destinations sometimes, and I'll show you how. The final thing that we can put on signs are instructions. So instructions are things like, follow this route number to get to this town, or, in the real world, it might be something like use left lane, or that sort of thing. We don't really have lanes on Minecraft Online, obviously, but it's that sort of sign. I'll have a few examples in a minute. So this is just an overview of the types of text that we have. And in this one, you can see how it all comes together. Excuse me. So these are the 8 basic layouts for signs. You've got, I wish I had a laser pointer. You have all of the components put together. Now, I said that highway names are less important, and you can see that only one of these layouts actually has the highway name on it. Now, pretty much, we only include the highway name when there are less than 3 destinations along that road. So you can see in layout A, 51 North, there are 3 destinations you can reach. There may even be more, but these are the 3 that we're showing on the sign. Layout B, there are only 2 destinations that are coming up. And so that means we have an extra free sort of line for our highway name, and we can put it on there. And we do that in italics. So we sort of see that how that hierarchy of important information goes on these signs. Now, we've also got a couple of other layouts here. So these 2, A and B, are really the most common ones. That arrow can be pointing up, left, right, or maybe a diagonal as well. We've got diagonal arrows that we can do. And then that's the same with layout B. Layout C and D are for minor intersections. So that's when it's just an intersection with like a road that might go to one town. So that road may not have a highway number because it's effectively, in real world terms, it would be considered a driveway or like a lane. It wouldn't even be a major highway. And in the real world, not every road has a route number. So this is just, for example, in layout C, we've got 51 North and our 2 destinations that can be reached. And then Somervale is to the left. And we don't need 2 whole signs for that. So we split it by using the underline, like the underline formatting tool, which some people might be familiar with. It's kind of a visual trick, I guess, but it sort of splits the sign up. And this is pretty similar to what real world layouts would look like at least in Australia, or probably in the US as well, although the US has sort of different standards. If you're not familiar with Australian road signs, like I am, of course, basically these sign layouts are very similar to what we have here. So the route number, the highway name, and the destinations. That's pretty much what the 3 pieces of information are that we have. We don't have cardinals, but cardinals are very important. So layout D, that's for like if you're coming off of a minor road, it's just showing the last destination in each direction. Pretty simple. Layout E is a fairly new one, and they're not as common because they're a lot more work, but I'm trying to get it more standardized. So that is when we have our distances. So this is also very important. Rather than just showing what the next 3 destinations are, we actually show the distance in kilometers. So we don't put kilometers at the end of it as the units because it takes up space. It's just implied that 1.1 means 1.1 kilometer, or 1,100 meters. And we do that for all destinations. So those come after the intersection. You're getting on that highway. It might be halfway down the road. You might be thinking, "Oh, I wonder what the next town is." It's Casa de Austria. It's 1.1 kilometers away. Similarly, we've got not similarly. That's the only time we ever have distances. So you won't put distances on, say, layout C or layout A, because we don't put distances on directional signs. This layout E is only used for after the intersection, and just as they call it a reassurance sign. It reassures you that you're on the right route, and it gives you an idea of how far your next destination is. And then we've got a couple of other sort of miscellaneous layouts here. We've got layout F, which is really just for it's like an interchange between two routes. So for example, let me pull up something here. So this is one of our maps. We've got, let's see. So for example, here where the 101 meets Nexus Loop Inner, we've actually got this like kind of connecting road that connects the two. So this intersection as it's shown here is actually it's actually a bridge. So you can't walk right from the 101 to NLI. You need to take this little like connecting road. And so the way that we would signpost that connecting road is right here with this with layout G or layout F. So for example, layout F, like I've just shown you, might say 101 north straight ahead. We've already had signs that say that 101 north is straight ahead and the destinations that can be reached. But more importantly, we've got this extra line that says to NLI. So this is saying it's a connecting road. So if you've got two highways next to each other and then there's like a road that connects them, that road may not have a route number if it's too small. So the signage for like that intersection would say to this road, to that road. And you'll see that in many places throughout the system because that's, there are some roads that just don't have route numbers. And layout H is also one that I think is kind of underrated. It tells you that the route number that you've been following is over and you don't need to look for it anymore. I see this so much, at least here where I live, our routes, they don't have a sign that says end. They just say, they just tell you connections to other highway routes. They don't say end. And it really annoys me because I'm like, should I still be following 34? Because I can't find it anymore. Is it still there? Is it over? Like, what's going on? So end 51 south is also very useful. So that's layout H. That's an end of route sign. So these are supposed to be very flexible. You shouldn't really need any other ones. Of course, there are exceptions to the rule, but most situations should be covered by a combination of these types of signs. So let's go over to route numbers now. So route numbers are really the backbone of the system. There are a lot of roads on Minecraft Online. There are a lot of roads in Fredonia. Take, for example, Highway 101. That is a really long road and it has many destinations, but signs can only fit 3 destinations at a time. So if you know that your destination is along 101, if you look at our handy dandy map here, which I'll show you properly in a minute, if we look at that map and see, oh, okay, the 101 goes all the way down, you can follow the 101 number until you start seeing your destination on the sign. So it covers that kind of case when you've got a lot of destinations on a road, but you know that it's along that road, so you're following that road. And also, your street name might change, or your highway name, I should say, might change. So let's have a look at that. So, for example, along here. Hopefully you can see this. This is the 32, or Route 32. So this is Route 32. It's East Gyptopia Highway, but I've actually assigned 32 all the way along here, and then 32 comes out and goes all the way to Winterthorn. So you've got a couple of different roads that are covered under 32, but basically if you knew that you wanted to get to Winterthorn and you were over here in, say, New Wood, you could follow the 32 all the way, even though it's not that exact road that you're on, it's that route that you're following. And that's what we're looking for. So route numbers are assigned based on the general direction of the road. So you've got east-west routes east-west routes are even and north-south routes are odd. So they may run a bit diagonally. They may sort of meander a bit. Your east-west route might run north for a little bit. But it's about the overall look. So like if you drew a rectangle around the 2 points, you would see, okay, this is more east-west than north-south, and that's how we sort of assign the numbers. And then you also have minor roots. So these are assigned to, these start at 300. So if you see a number from 100 to 299, that's a major root. And then we have 300s, which are the minor roots. So these are basically intended to be connecting routes. Like I said before, that if a road just connects two highways, it may not have a route number, but sometimes it does just for just for signposting's sake. If it's a bit of a longer route, like for example, this one here, 324, I think that's under Dragon Run. That doesn't really connect any places except the 23 and the 101. But we give it a number just because it makes it easier to signpost it, and it helps people get their bearings a bit more, and you can sort of follow it along. Other minor routes. Generally, minor routes will still connect multiple places. Like here we've got the 312 that goes from the 21 to Nexus Loop Outer. And just sort of a bunch of other general routes that connect smaller places. So it's really there to give highways a number, but it sort of demonstrates that they're not major highways that go long distances or connect multiple places. They're just smaller, shorter roads. Now, the other thing to note about this system, and it's a bit hard to see here because of how messy like the spawn area is, but the numbers increase as you head away from spawn. So because the numbers radiate out from a central point, you sort of have to like spiral out, if that makes sense. So we've got the main sky roads, the FRS sky roads, those are given their own like letters and numbers. So there's the Oriental Sky Road, the Lava Town Sky Road, the Occidental, and then the Great Northern, and those are given like, you can see here, they're like Great Northern. It's the initials. So that's because they're very special. They're very historical. They are probably the original highways, really. But we also can just say that they're 1, 2, 3, and 4. So those are the numbers. We don't write that number. We write the letters, but for route counting purposes, they are 1, 2, 3, and 4, which means that our first official route number starts at 5. So we've got the 5 here. And then we've got the 6. Now the 6 runs east-west because it's even, and that goes here. And then we've got 7, which runs north-south, but that's sort of on the other edge of spawn. So like, you can think about it going like 5, 6, 7, 8, and then 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and then that really spirals out. So the way that route numbers are assigned is you effectively count by 4 from the last number that applies. So if I was to say like, let's go, this one doesn't have the route numbers out all the way out here, I haven't done it yet. Let's say that you were doing a new road, like let's say the 130. Okay, let's say we built another road parallel here next to the Obernai Sky Road, which is Route 75. We built a new Sky Road here. We didn't have anything after 75. The next number in that like pattern would be 79 because it's north-south. So we go, okay, it's going to be odd, so the next odd number is 73, but 73 would actually be on the other side of the map because of how we spiral out. So the next number here would be Route 79, and then the next number after that, north-south, would be 83. So you sort of count by 4s, and you make sure that it's odd and even. And that is the exact same system for the minor routes. They exist in the same way, except they just start at 300. So you can sort of see we've got the 301, the 303. I think that's not actually, I haven't put that on the map because it's so tiny. It shouldn't even have a route number. 301, the 303. There's the 30. Oh no, there's the 303. North south. I don't know why I was thinking that. So 301, 302, 303, 304. It's a bit messy around spawn, but it spirals out in the same way. Again, that's not really important for signage purposes. It's just a bit of an idea of how the map is sort of created. Sorry, about how route numbers are sort of created. Anyway, most important thing about those is that we show them in bold at the top of the sign, and the cardinal direction is in all caps next to it. So we don't ever just leave a route number on its own, and we don't ever like put a destination next to a route number. It has to be the number and the cardinal direction and an arrow, usually. If there's no arrow, then if we go back to our list here, really the only time there's no arrow is if we're using layout E, which is a destination thing. And that's won't be placed at an intersection, so it doesn't really need an arrow. Some special routes like Nexus Loop Outer, Great Northern, anything that has its route number as letters is actually shown still in bold, but we put like a period or a full stop in between each letter because it's an acronym, and it just helps separate things out a bit to show that it's an acronym. Now, the official name for all route numbers is Fredonia Highway Route. That's the official name. If you see Fredonia Route or Fredonia Highway or any of those things, it's Fredonia Highway Route. There are some older systems that were in place that might still have signs that have sort of been not updated yet, and that's kind of what we have to just work out and basically remove those old signs. But Fredonia Highway Route. So every number in this system is a Fredonia Highway Route number. And we might say Fredonia Highway Route 101, but we just say Route 101. It's just the official terminology. So we've already looked at the highway map. This is what I was just looking at now. I'll go into more detail on the specifics of what this map's for later on, but this is what we were just looking at, so I just didn't go to that slide. Highway names. I already sort of talked a bit about these, but basically you have the freedom, if you build a highway, to name the highway whatever you want. So if you have, so as I said, if you have the room to put it on a sign, you can put it on a sign. And we tend to abbreviate sometimes, so you can't, like, you might not be able to fit, say in this example down the bottom here, we've got Emerald Mall Iceway. You can't fit that all on one line, so we have to abbreviate it. And we try not to split it across two lines just because it makes it a bit messier. And again, highway names are less important. So if you're building a highway for somebody and they want to name it, they can name it. If you're building a highway and you want to name it, that's all good. And if you're exploring highways and you haven't really given it, like there's no real obvious name, it's just got a number. Sometimes it might not have a name. If you want to give it a name, you can. One of the things that I've tended to do for highways that are very old and don't have obvious names is I've named it after like a player rather, whose, town it goes to, or, maybe the person who I think built the road, that sort of thing. So it's just, you can be creative with these. This is what you can be creative with, I guess. Now, destinations, the crux of the system. So a destination is a named town, settlement, or other point along a highway route. So anything along a highway route could be Diamond Mall, could be a city, could be a village, whatever. And every destination is in order. So the bottom line of the sign has to show the last destination along that road, and then we sort of cycle through whatever the next ones are. So I'll show you an example of that. So the second and third lines show intermediate destinations. So those are our middle destinations. So that's got the closest at the top. So we go from top to bottom, closest destinations at the top, and the farthest is at the bottom. And never split destinations across lines. People would be expecting every destination to be like on one line. If you split it, then it could be perceived as two different destinations. We don't want that. So abbreviate where possible. Forbidden Outpost, for example, becomes you just throw some apostrophes in there. One of the other things we have a lot of are indirect destinations. Those are shown in parentheses. So what it basically means is there is a way to get to this town. It's on a different road though. Like it's on a connecting road. So you might be on this highway. We've got, say, Lakewood in brackets, parentheses. That means that Lakewood is reached by this road, but you also need to take another turn. And that will be signposted. It must be signposted. You should never put an indirect destination on a sign and then not signpost the intersection that you need to take to get there. As I said before, destination can't be placed next to a route number. You need to put it on a separate line because the route number has the cardinal that needs to go with it. But if you are signposting a road that doesn't have a route number and doesn't have a highway name, the destination can be placed next to an arrow. So let's take a look at an example. So we've got something called the standard destinations map. This is another map that I'm working on updating. It basically says what every destination along a road should be. So it means that if you were to build an intersection at any point along the route, you would always know exactly what destinations to put on the sign for the existing road. It just keeps things consistent across the system. So I'll show you the actual map in a minute, but this is like a simplified example. So you can see we've got two ends to our route. This is, let's say it's 22 West. I think that's what I put on the signs here. On our western side, we've got New Vera, and that has a filled-in arrow, a filled-in pink arrow. That means that that is the final destination of the route in that direction. So if you look from sort of right to left at our signs that are pointing towards New Vera, you can see all the way along the route, New Vera is at the bottom of those signs. So we've got New Vera is pretty consistent, but you can see that our intermediate destinations, so Dogland, Forward, Acaciaville, Lewistown, those are shown from like closest to farthest. So if we look at our far sort of bottom right here, you can see Dogland is the next town, and then our turnoff for Forward is our next town, and that's in brackets because, as you can see, Forward is accessible via a separate route. But New Vera stays at the bottom. Then we pass through Dogland. Forward is now the nearest destination. Acaciaville becomes the next nearest, and so we put that on the second line. And then we pass through Forward. Acaciaville becomes the next nearest. Then Lewistown shows up, and so forth. And finally, because after we pass through Acaciaville, there's only two more destinations accessible by this road. We've got Lewistown and New Vera. That's it. And we've got an extra free line there, so we throw the name of the highway in. And then finally, after we pass through Lewistown, the only thing that's on there is New Vera. And then we've just got a blank line at the bottom, and that's totally fine. So that is how you would basically follow the map. So I'll show you the map now. So actually I might just pull up the real thing. So it's very messy. Hopefully you can see it. This is the standard destination map. So all of the pink text and pink shapes, they are what we were just looking at. So for example, we've got here, hopefully you can see this, we've got the 67, and we can see that for the 67, the Forbidden Outpost is our final destination in the northern direction. So 67, let's pretend 67 doesn't go all the way up. So yeah, for 67, the final destination is Forbidden Outpost. And in the other direction, the final destination is Diamond Mall. So that means that our intermediates are Sky City, Port Dome, and then Diamond Mall will be at the bottom of the sign. Another example is, let's see, what else have we got? We've got maybe another more basic example, the 47. For this section of the 47, Elwyn Village is the final destination to the north, and then Acacia Glade is the final destination at the bottom. This map looks very messy right now because it's not been it's just been overlaid on top of the existing map, so the colors don't look right, and there's a bunch of other issues with it. But I'll be updating this to make it look nicer. Something to note though is we sort of have an extra kind of let me try and find an example. we have sort of extra arrows that give us a little bit more of an indication. So let's say we've got, I'm trying to find the clearest example. Okay, here we go. So, oh no, that's not a good one. That's actually wrong. What do we have here? God, I forgot how big this map was. All right, let's do this one. So this is the 51 highway. Obviously, if you're going north, you can see that the final destination is Emberest. But if you're going south, there is no final destination. But what we have is this arrow. So this arrow will indicate that whatever sign, like it's pointing to a new highway. So 51 ends, it's pointing to a new highway here. That means that whatever we have to put from that point on this highway, we put on signs here on the 51. So, for example, there's no destinations along this road until we get to this arrow. That means that we follow the arrow. Okay, the next destination is Nexus Southwest 1. So if we were up here in Emberest and we were signposting south on the 51, even though the 51 doesn't actually make it to Nexus Southwest 1, we put that as the next destination. And then we would follow it all, we would follow the rest of these destinations. So 32 West again. So we've got 32, Nexus Southwest 1, Nexus Southwest 2. You can also see here another sort of point of interest is that this arrow only applies to Route 32 heading westbound. So this section of highway actually has two route numbers. It's Nexus Loop Outer and Route 32. But we are saying that this destination only applies to Route 32 and Nexus Loop Outer does not need this destination signposted. Now the reason for that is because Nexus Loop highways, so Nexus Loop Inner, Nexus Loop Outer, Nexus Loop Borderlands, those are the three Nexus loops, we don't actually signpost the nexuses as destinations because they're sort of a given. It's more useful to say they connect to other cities, so we don't put the nexuses as destinations along the nexus loops. So we skip them, basically, and that's why we won't say that. That's basically why it says 32 West is the only one that gets Nexus Southwest 2 as a destination. So that's kind of most of the exceptions to the rule, I think. Sometimes there'll be specific signs, like this one here says, like this is actually saying if you're going in this direction, if you're signposting in this direction, this is what needs to go on the signs. But those are pretty rare. And there are also a few highways that haven't currently got signposts. So again, this is something that needs to be updated, and I'll go through when that's going to be done in a minute. But that is the standard destinations map on top of our basic map. What this map also shows, and that was the other thing, is it shows the regions. So these regions have been roughly decided by the community. They're not finalized at all, and it's also a very small subset of people who've actually been working on deciding where the regions are. But every region does have a name for now. So that's what that's been split up into. And you can see here that at the end of the 79, this is like a sub-region called the Southern Gulf. Now, this isn't actually marked on the map of regions, but it should be, because this is, again, out of date. Southern Gulf is not a town, it's not a city, it's not on the wiki, it's just a region, a general region of Fredonia. And what these little tildes mean is that that is typed in italics. So regional destinations are typed in italics. So say you were, say you built a highway that went to the central southwest and that didn't actually connect to any towns, you might put on the sign central, or it might be dictated that you put on the sign central southwest as a final destination, but it has to be in italics. That's a fairly new development, and there aren't really any signs that would have that as a thing. So let's just leave that for now. Finally, we've got the instructional text. So here are some examples. If you cannot fit all your destinations on a sign, you are also allowed to add additional destinations through the use of a use sign. So if we look at our top right here, we've got use. Those are extra destinations that may not normally be shown on signs. So let's say, there's like as an example, at the top of Route 101, which is like sort of here in this area in game, there is a big signboard that says all of the destinations you can get to by taking 101 south. That was not what I wanted to do. So that's kind of an example of when you might use that. Of course, as we go along 101 south, there's only 3 destinations per sign, but it shows you an overview. A bigger thing that, a more common example for this might be if you built a highway or a highway has been built for a while, but a new town is built along that route. At some intersections, you might just add an extra sign that says use, 101 south to get to this new town, because you don't want to go through and redo all of the signs. It'll just be an extra sign that says follow that, and then just make sure it's signposted when you get to that town. There are 2 different ways we can use the word via. So via basically just means this is a way to go. So, for example, if there's one town you can get to, but you can take 2 different routes, you might signpost that and say Blackburn. For example, in this case, we got Blackburn via 55 south and Blackburn via 322 north. So it might show a split there. Furthermore, we've also got, we can expand that out a bit, and we can give people an option, and more of an informed option, and say, if you go this way, it might look more direct, but it's actually 2 minutes slower than going the other way. So that's kind of when we would use via, because typically we don't want to show 2 destinations on different routes unless we're making it obvious that it's an option. So, for example, if you've got 2 roads going into spawn, let's try and find an example of that. So, let's see here. Okay, maybe spawn's a bad example. Let's see, what can we do? It's hard to find. God damn it. Okay, let's... that's bad. That's a bad one. That doesn't work. Okay, I'm kind of at a loss, actually. Oh, here we go. Let's just... Damn. All right, okay, sorry, I keep saying that. Let's do this. So this is Route 603. This is actually, I forgot to talk about these. These are scenic routes. So anything in the 600s is a scenic route. They don't really go anywhere. They're just signposted because they might be a historical sort of walk or just a nice scenic alternative to a normal route. But in this case, you can actually get to Hill Valley by taking the 603 or by taking the 5. So we might say at this intersection, you can say, Hill Valley via 5 or Hill Valley via 603. But here's the thing. We don't want to signpost Hill Valley twice. The only time we can do it is, as I've just described, if we're doing via, giving an option. But if you didn't put that sign in, it would not be a good idea to say 5 north, Hill Valley, and 603 north, Hill Valley, because it's a bit confusing. We want to make it clear that both of these roads go to the same place and that it's an option. And if we're feeling really nice, we might give them a bit more information and say, it's a faster walk to get to this place via this way, but you can choose to take this way, it's more scenic, blah, blah, blah. That's just like what I've got shown over here on the side with the 2.1 kilometers and 8-minute walk. There's a bit of math you can do. Basically, you just want to do you just want to plot the route on, say, a map and work out how long it is. And I'll need to find a more simple way to do that, but that's okay. Similarly, we've also got follow signs for. So the example that I've given here is actually a real example. So spawn, follow signs for new wood, 101 north. So let's see here. So along Route 101, if you're down here in Vera and you're going north on 101, spawn, you can access spawn directly from 101. It goes all the way up and it comes in and then it sort of links in with central spawn. That's great. But spawn is not a final destination until you get to New Wood. So if we look up here, you can see that along 101, New Wood is actually sort of a final destination. You can see that with this little pointy triangle here. New Wood is a final destination. And then once we get to New Wood, we start with spawn as the new final. But we kind of want to say to people, hey, you know, spawn is still accessible from here. So what we do is we make this sign that says follow signs for New Wood. So basically it means you can get to spawn, but you need to follow a different sign until you get to that point. And then there'll be another sign, hopefully. Should be another sign that says what's coming up. So hopefully that makes sense. And then the other one that I skipped is just very basic. Next left and next right. So if you've just got, just like with a town that may have been added later on, it's just that sort of extra addition. Something you might not want to put on the signs, might not want to redo all of the signs. It might just be a very small destination or like sort of service center. Some people like to build service centers along their highways with like crafting tables and that sort of thing. So that's pretty cool. So you can put that on an extra sign. It just says next left, next right. Not necessarily anything too important, but just something you might want to make a note of. So that's cool. So let's look at some examples. So hopefully you can still see everything. I'm going to disconnect from Minecraft Online here, and I'm going to go to a world that I've created specifically for some of these signage layouts. So you will see what we've got here. Just double checking you guys can still see everything. Hopefully. Right. So these are a few of our like basic highway intersections. Now what I've got here are some crossroads, some T-intersections, and then a roundabout. But this is pretty much all you'll ever need to follow, because what we've got is a pattern, and you can follow the pattern for pretty much every intersection you come across. So in all of these, we've got either one or two routes. So the green outline represents one highway number that's continuing, and the blue outline indicates a different highway number. So for example, in 1A, we've got two that are intersecting at right angles. So down here, we've got a green route, one route running north-south, and then another route running east-west. In 1B, we've got a route that sort of goes around a corner, and then another route that goes like up. So you'll see that across all of them. There's a couple other ones I'll talk about when we get there. So I'll just run through these really quick. Let's go with 1A, because that's the most basic. So first things first. We have three stages of signs at every intersection. So this one right here that you can see in the middle of my screen, actually I might turn off F1. This one here. So this is called an advanced direction sign. You could also call it a trailblazer. Basically, it's put in advance of the intersection, and it says what routes are going in what direction. So if you know that you're looking for 43 north, it's already straight ahead, and you don't even need to worry. It's just an extra sort of an advanced sign. So AD, or advanced direction sign, is what we call it. This here is just a note to say that that's what it is. So we've got the continuing straight ahead on the top, or basically straight ahead goes on the top. Then we've got, because this is a cross, like 47 is going across in both directions, we put a line gap and then we sort of group them together as if they're like one route, because they kind of are. So 47 is to the left, 47 is to the right. We tried to do like north and south, east and west, because it just makes more sense, but it really doesn't matter if you do south on top and north on top. It does not matter. And we also use the formatting tool to make like an underline, which is sort of just very, very simple. You just sort of do that. It's kind of it's a bit annoying to do, but it looks really... Oh, I forgot to launch my thing that lets me type the arrows, and so on. So that's what that is. That's all good. So that's our advanced direction sign. That's sign number 1. Then we've got, so about 8 blocks down the road, so these are placed in advance of the intersection. We've got about 8 blocks here. I don't think this is actually 8 blocks, but that's what it's meant to be. Then we get to the intersection, and we've got, it's technically 3 signs here, but we call it one type of sign, the intersection direction sign, or ID sign. Now, for every direction that we could possibly take, we've got one sign. So we can see 47 north goes to the left, 47 south goes to the right, that's on the other side of the road, but it's still there. And then we've got straight ahead, 43 north goes to Pallet Town. So basically we are just trying to cover every possible direction and say the destinations that can be reached in that direction. Now, it is technically optional to have this straight ahead one, because if you're following this sign, you already know that you need to go straight ahead to continue on 43 north. This is probably less likely to be new information for a traveler, because, well, it's not. They already know that they're going to Pallet Town. They already know they're following 43 north, ideally. It still helps to put it there, but you could just as easily replace this sign with the right-hand equivalent of this one. So like this one that's over here, you could just do left, right, like top and bottom, and then not worry about doing the straight ahead one at the intersection. But it always, like if you have the time or you have the energy, always helps to put the straight ahead one on there, but it's not always required. Then finally, we come through the intersection, and we've got, this is the one with the distance. So this is our pull-through sign, PT, or reassurance sign is also what it could be called. So we've got the route number at the top there. We got the next town. In this case, there's only one destination. It's Pallet Town, and we do 1.2. And we try to like space it so that the number's on one side and the town's on the left side. But if you don't do that, it doesn't really matter. What we've also got here is an extra like signpost, or extra highway name sign. This is something that I added after I made that presentation. But basically, if you have a really long highway name, and you want to include it, you can put it on a separate sign. You can split it across lines. So this is quite a long name, but yeah. So anyway, we've got advanced direction, intersection direction, pull through. Let's look at the other direction. You'll see sort of how it all comes together. So again, we've got our advanced direction sign with the route numbers going up, right, and left. And then we've got our 3 intersection direction signs for this direction. And then we've got our pull-through. Now the pull-through, I forgot to mention, is about 8 blocks after the intersection, so it's not too close. Just makes it clear that, like, you know, this is for this road. Because if there's no arrows on it, then you might get confused, but it's sort of far enough away that it's not confusing people who are at the intersection. So that's our pattern. It's these 3 types of signs, and it doesn't matter where you put these, as long as they're facing that direction and they're at the intersection somewhere. You could stack them up 3 blocks and do up, right, left if you wanted, or whatever. You could do them overhead, like you'll see in a moment. It doesn't matter, as long as they are facing the intersection and it's clear that they're relevant to that intersection. So yeah, that's what those are. Now this one has an additional sign, and this is, an additional highway number on it. And this is where you'll see that on the standard destination map. Sometimes the highway junction will be the destination. So in this case, 101 highway, the 101 route, is a destination along this road, because you go to Southern Outpost and then you have the intersection with the 101, and that gets you to different destinations. So this might say other route numbers like NLO or Great Northern or one of the other Sky roads, and we include that because it's a very important route. Most people would know about the 101 because you probably came from the 101, so it's kind of, we put that on there, and as you can see here, it's also a destination on our pull-through sign. So we've got Southern Outpost, and that's actually been abbreviated, and I've gotten rid of the space there, but it's still legible. You can still read it. We want to get as much of the word in as possible. Omitting spaces is perfectly acceptable. And then the 101 highway junction is our next destination there. So that's cool. Now we've got another example. So in this case, we've got two roads that both go to New Louisville. So that's a little different to the layout that I had before, but as long as the information's there, it doesn't really matter. So you could split this across two signs, or you could consolidate it like I've done here. So we put that in advance of the intersection because that's where we've got the overview of all of our route numbers. So as I said, in this case, we've actually got a route that's sort of going around the corner, and then the route that we're staying on is actually also going around the corner. So it's a bit of a more complex intersection, but it doesn't need to be because we've got this advanced direction sign. If you're on 319, you say, oh, 319 to the left, go that way. We have 3 levels of confirmation to say this is where you're going. So in this case, we've also got that additional sign that says New Louisville can be reached by 3:36 or by 3:19. And if you go by 3:36, it's 8 minutes. And 3:19, it's 6 minutes. Always include the cardinal direction there because otherwise you might go east on 3:36. And then again here we've got, this is a very messy sign, but it's overhead and it shows those 3 directions. Now because this route's going around a corner, probably a good idea to include the straight ahead direction or the continuing direction. I know I said you could sort of implement it over there, but that's a less complex intersection. In this case, you probably want to include it. So if we looked at the standard destinations map, we'd see that the brackets, 336 doesn't go to any direct destinations. It just goes to a bunch of roads that connect to different destinations. So that's why a lot of these are in brackets here. But you can see that 319 is like a direct route to New Louisville, whereas 336 is like a more sort of roundabout way to go. Now you can include them both on these signs. If we didn't have this sign back here that said, New Louisville via the 2 options, wouldn't be a good idea to put them on these 2 signs here. So, again, on the whole, it's very simple. It looks complex because we've got a few different pieces of information and the routes are sort of going in different directions, but it is very simple. For every possible option you could take, there's one sign and it's got the relevant information on it, and that's kind of it. And then as we go through the intersection, say we're following the 319, we're following the green line. Great, we've got our 2 destinations and we've got a street highway name there. We had the space for that. Similarly over here, this one doesn't have room for a highway name, but it does have room for all of our 3 destinations, which is great. And yeah, so pretty much any intersection will be covered by that pattern of pretty much every intersection will be covered by that pattern of advance, intersection, reassurance. You could do that for anything. So that's kind of what we're doing here. Let's take a look at another example. This one's a bit more of a sort of messy. Well, actually, it still follows the same pattern. It's got less physical signs, but it still follows the same pattern, which is kind of interesting. So again, we've got our advanced direction. Then we've got this one to the right, 30 west. And this is where our diagonal arrows come in. So 30 east to the left, 101 south to the north. 101 south to the south. Pull through, keep going. If we're coming from this direction on a diagonal, if our road is diagonal, it's usually better to put this advanced direction sign on a like freestanding block, just because it means you can correctly align it and then the arrows also align. Whereas if you were to place this on, say, a normal block here, it would be a little bit more ambiguous as to which direction you're actually sort of heading, which direction is straight through, which directions are the sort of intersections. So anyway, that's okay. We've got our advanced direction sign. That's great. We keep going. 101 south is sort of up and to the left. And then we confirm that if we were going this way, we'd see, okay, I'm on 101 south. That's what I wanted. All good. Or I'm going this way. I see, okay, 101 north is to the right up here, straight ahead, and 30 west is to the left, straight ahead here, or diagonal to the left, pulled through, great, we're good to go. So you'll see that pattern a lot. It's like you can see that we had the same three types of signs, but we actually, because of the geometry of this intersection, they're both sort of legible, and they both kind of make sense when you're standing here, no matter which way you're going. So that's good. I'll just sort of quickly run through these ones because they're a bit more basic, but this is what happens when a route ends. So we've got our advanced direction sign, which is N23 north. So this is the 23, it's ending. Then we've got Great Northern Highway to the east and the west, like as our cross street. So we keep our break there, GN east, GN west, wonderful. We get here, we've got a sign to the left and a sign to the right, beautiful. We've got our pull through, our reassurance sign. Wonderful. From this direction, very similar as we've seen. We've only got one direction, so this sign's a little easier to write. We've got Great Northern to the north. Great Northern to the east. 23 south to the right. Keep going. One sign per direction. Again, you could omit this if you didn't have the time, but because straight through is very obviously simple. And there's an extra little bit of reassurance. If you were just sort of walking, you could kind of see that as you were going straight ahead. And of course, you've got your reassurance sign. But again, if you can include it, please do. 23 south to the right. Then we've got begin. This is another important word. Begin, 23 south. It says you're on a new route. It's starting here. Here are the destinations. And this is what it's called, if you want to include that. So you'll notice a couple of inconsistencies with what I said in the PowerPoint, but that will all be rectified in the final version of the standards. Anyway, we've got a couple other basic ones over here. So 25 south. This is an intersection with just a road that has a name, and that's it. So you might come across these. There might just be roads that have names that somebody's given a name but doesn't have a route number assigned to it. So therefore, in that case, the advanced direction is just the route. So we don't put street names or anything on the advanced direction signs, just the route number. 25 south goes to the right, 25 south to the right again. And this is where we would put the street name, Unknown Valley Road. Beautiful. Go to the right. This is our reassurance sign. And we also have a reassurance sign for the highway name. This is not strictly necessary. But if you're coming from that road, from the minor road, let's call it, you still do have an advanced direction sign. That shows it just like we've seen. Then this is our simplified intersection direction. So it just shows the final destination on both lines. So South Bay is the final destination there. Even if there were other intermediate destinations, we'd only show the last one. And Dragon River Peak City, which has been abbreviated to the south, or it's rather to the north here. Sorry, it's a bit confusing with these directions. Yeah, and you can see we've got the highway name there because space allows. What else have we got? So this is an intersection with just a road to a town, as I mentioned before, it's effectively a driveway. So it doesn't have a route number, doesn't have any of that. It's just a town name in that direction. So in that case, we don't have an advanced direction sign. Maybe if there was a curve in the road, you could, but you don't need it. And then we've got, again, the simplified intersection direction sign. We've got the route number. In this case, it's actually Nexus Loop Borderlands, and the cardinal direction for those loop routes is clockwise or anti-clockwise. Flumopolis to the left, very simple. And then pull through, because if you're coming from Flumopolis, you probably still want to know where you're going. And then that's great. And then coming from that minor road, we again have that simplified intersection direction sign. Nexus loop borderlands clockwise to the right. That's confirmed down there. And nexus loop borderlands anti-clockwise. That's confirmed down there too. So that's great. The final one that's a little bit different just because they're not as common, roundabouts. Typically, you could just treat this like the normal four-way intersection that we had over there, but if you want to make it a little prettier, you can do it this way, which is a bit just special because it's a roundabout. You don't need to put in a roundabout in Minecraft because we're all just walking, but if you want to treat it like a road, let's treat it like a road. You've got, again, your advanced direction, and we add this extra plaque down the bottom that says at roundabout because it's a roundabout, and it just says, you might need to go around if you're looking for where you're going. In this case, we actually signpost the exits rather than like the other ones. Rather than that, we would do an exit, sort of each exit. So straight ahead this way, 348 east. Straight ahead this way, 340 east. Straight away this way, 348 west. Straight ahead. You could just keep going around in circles. It's a roundabout. Pull through, all good. And every single one of these has a roundabout at the bottom. The only one that I haven't got in here, oh yes, the concurrency. This one is very important actually. I completely forgot about this one. So all those ones are pretty simple because you've just got one route per road. Where it gets a little complicated, and there's not too many of these on the network, but where it does get complicated is when two routes overlap. So in this case, we've got two routes coming in and then another road here that has both of those routes assigned to it. So it can get a little messy, but let's see how we go. So first of all, start off pretty simple. We've got our advanced direction sign, but you can see that there are two routes in that direction. Now, this might be confusing to some, but I think it doesn't really make that much of a difference because if you're following the number that you want, you're just going to follow it anyway. So it doesn't matter what else is going that direction. As long as there's an arrow for your route number, you're going to follow it. That's all good. Then we've got two signs pointing in the same direction, 21 north and NLO clockwise. And this is kind of mandatory almost. You need to have it overhead to make it clear, I think. I found that this is the best way to signpost concurrencies is to do it overhead just because it makes it a little easier to comprehend. But you could always do it in a vertical format if you wanted. This is also showing that you can be a bit creative with the sign supports. Again, it doesn't actually matter how you lay out, like where exactly you put the signs, as long as they are facing the direction, as long as you're facing the direction of travel. And also you can just need to make sure that it's 3 blocks high so that if you're riding on a horse, you can pass underneath. So yeah, you've got both to the left. It's just like any other ones. You're just doing one sign for every direction that you could possibly go. But in this case, there are two directions, and you split up the two routes. So never just do 21/32 if that's the overlap, if that's the concurrency. Don't do that because they will have different destinations assigned to them, and they'll have different cardinal directions sometimes. In this case, you can see that this one's clockwise and this one's north, so that's important. And then as we follow onto the concurrency, we've got two sets of pull-through signs because you can't just consolidate it. You need to make sure that you've got two sets of destinations and their associated distances. Nexus Loop Outer is the name of this highway. Typically, there won't be like an overlap of highway names, so if you wanted to include the highway name there, you can do that too. Let's look at our advanced direction for the other side. The other directions are pretty simple because the concurrency doesn't apply to these directions. So Nexus Loop Outer, anti-clockwise, 21 south to the right. Again, we've got our sign here. It's got a bit of a gap in it, but that's okay. Got our advanced direction over there, and our other, sorry, not advanced, pull through over there, pull through over here. Great. And coming from the other direction, I forgot to do the advanced direction, but that one's pretty simple. Again, you've got 21 south to the left, 21 north to the right, and this is where our overlap is, Nexus Loop Outer to the north as well. Oh, yeah, to straight ahead. Okay, so that is all of the, well, it's not all of the different options you might encounter, but it just goes to show you that if you follow that pattern of advanced direction, intersection direction, and pull through, that is your pattern. You could apply that to any kind of intersection you come across. Hopefully that makes sense. I will show these in I will make a bunch of diagrams as well to follow, but it's actually just quite difficult and messy to see them on a diagram. It's a lot easier to see when you're sort of in game, and you'll see these around. The problem is that most of the intersections across Fredonia are not compliant with that because this system has been developed for a really long time, maybe six or so years, and those different layouts are sort of not consistent. But this is kind of the final version of that, and that's hopefully what I'll be trying to document over the next couple of months. But anyway, let's go through. We did where do signs go. So this is the future of the signage system. So this is probably the most timely thing. The first thing we need is a new map, or rather an updated map. So what I was working on and what you've seen so far, these maps, these are actually from 2023, this data, the highway data, which is really not up to date. There have been a lot of new roads built since then. But basically, when I have more time in June, I will try to get an updated version of the base map, i.e. the satellite view. That'll then lend itself to the newest edition of the highway map, which is what you saw before. So that's this really nice looking one. So this is all of this data is pretty current, but there's just been a lot of new roads that have been built since this was last sort of updated properly. But that'll be that final edition, and then from there we can go to creating the standard destination map, because then we'll have all of the new towns and highways, and that will dictate what can go on those new highways. It'll just be updated, and then everybody should be able to follow it. From there, we'll just finalize the signage guide, and that'll be pretty much what I just described verbally, but in a written format, so that we can share it with everyone. I have been working on this myself for a really long time, but I want to be able to let other people do it and do it consistently. So that's kind of what all of this is for. And then finally, hopefully by the end of June or July, we'll publish that polished highway map, and then at the very end of which will sort of have a bit of a connection to the community, the community's finalization of the world region splits. So ideally we'll have one big map full of everything, and then we'll have the standard destination map just for highways, and then there'll be the signage guide, and all of that will come together so that anybody from basically halfway through this year, anyone will be able to make the signs on the highways. They can update the signs on existing highways if they want to do that themselves. Basically allow everyone to do the work that I have been doing, because I haven't actually had the chance to publish all of my own work to help other people, to let other people do it. So I've just been very busy, basically. Anyway, after that's all been published, what would be the ideal goal is to have everything open source so that other people can work on updating these maps. But I'm yet to figure out what the best way is to do that, in terms of making this absolutely huge. This is an Illustrator file that is absolutely huge. So I'm just still trying to work out what the best way is to publish that so that other people can edit it without also wrecking everything. So it's kind of it's a bit of a messy situation. But on the whole, we're making good progress. But this is just sort of the timeline. hopefully for June, July, because that's when I'm on break this year from college. So that's kind of the hopeful timeline. Okay, so that is pretty much everything. I know there's a lot of information. So Texas Keykeeper, you asked, will it be possible to view those maps at some point? Yep, it will be. I'm definitely trying to, like I said, find a way to upload them. Maybe upload what I've got so far as well. It's just all out of date, so I don't want to give any wrong information. But I'll try and find a way to host it. Again, the file sizes are huge. I haven't exported everything. It's all in like a bunch of different folders. Like, it's a real mess. So I will definitely be uploading everything to try and find it. So that other people can find it and look at it and look at what we've got so far. But yeah, it's definitely a big job. Were there any other questions from any of that? Oh yeah, I'm just gonna. I don't want to go into Minecraft Online because I've got all of my like mod stuff there, and I don't want to. Hang on, I'll just. Great, you can't see that. That's good. I will go in and have a look. Yep. So Route 69. Just gotta quit like all of these files because they're huge. Thank you also for listening, by the way. Very much appreciate some people caring about the ridiculous, like, nerdiness of this project. Anyway, Route 69, that's all the way up here in Cicero. Is that Cicero? Yeah, so Buffalo Bump, what I've seen so far of your signs are pretty on point for like what, like based on what I said. So I think you got it. It's just, it's really just like a couple of things based on those things that I talked about. But honestly, it's not the end of the world if it's not perfect, because like it's a community project anyway, and everybody's just sort of developing it as it goes. Okay, hang on, just give me a sec now. I'll turn my screen back on. Okay, can you see my screen now? God, I feel like I'm back in lockdown. Like, can you see my screen? Can you hear what I'm saying? Is this? I think these are what you showed. Oh no, I think I made that sign actually. Actually, fuck. Let me turn off chat. Can I do that? Chat settings. Hidden. Okay, great. Now you can't see the chat. But now you can't see my screen. Okay, we're back. Oh, okay, so you made those. Great. They look good. I was there you go. That's how good they were. I actually thought that it was me who did it. So that's good. It's perfect. So sorry, my teleporting isn't working now, but that's fine. So yeah, that's perfect. Those look good. Need to somehow turn my commands only. Oh shit. Why can't I do that? Anyway, those look great. Yep, I'll have a proper look once I'm done with the stream. I just don't want to do anything too much on Minecraft Online, just because like there's like staff information that I can't show. But yeah, no, it looks really good. What have we got here? Yeah, nice, cool. So yeah, that's what I'm talking about. And then once that standard destination map is updated, everyone will be able to follow the signage sort of signage destinations, and just keep it consistent rather than having different things along the way. But yeah, it looks good. So oh yeah. Is this yeah, these look good as well. Turn right for you. Beautiful. Yeah. No notes. Excellent. So yeah, keep going like that. You'll be there's no issues at all. Okay, so other than all of that, I'm gonna get my slideshow back up here. Was there anything else? Any other questions from that? I think that sort of covered everything. And for those of you joining us in the recording, feel free to message me on Discord. I will be doing that. I'll be sharing this recording and everything as well. So, yeah. Okay, well, I'm just realizing now there's a bit of a delay on the live chat, so that's probably why. But anyway, if there's anything else, please send a message in Discord or whatever. And that is... Oh, that's okay. I would love to. I'd love to keep going all the way down to the south. I just, like I said, I don't want to spend too much time in game just because it has like sensitive stuff, information that I might accidentally reveal, and I don't want to do that. Thank you, Texas, for the wonderful words. This is good practice for my future profession. Hopefully, I'm doing city planning, so I'm sure I'll have to do many of these for real life. So this is a fun little exercise. No, I'll check out the rest of those Route 69 signs later on, Buffalo. So yeah, definitely. All right. Well, if there is nothing else, then I think that is. I think that's the end of the stream. Thank you very much for watching. Really appreciate your time and your consideration. And yeah, okay. Goodbye.